Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leslie Robin. Today, I am going to present about the prophet Isaiah. Isaiah, from a Hebrew name, Yeshayahu, which means God is salvation. Isaiah is son of Amos. Isaiah is one of the major prophets of the Old Testament and the author of the book of Isaiah. The book of Isaiah, or it is called the Vision of Isaiah. The book of Isaiah is one of the most important books in the Old Testament. It is a narrative story as well as a collection of oracles, prophecies, and even a parable. The author is the prophet Isaiah, who wrote the book around 700 BC. The book is the first of the major prophets as well as the first of the latter prophets. Isaiah's purpose was to bring back the nations of Judah, God's nation, back to the faithfulness as well as to proclaim the coming of the Savior and His future reign. He brings the message to both Judah and Israel of condemnation as well as a message of hope and salvation through the coming of the Messiah or the Jesus Christ. The book of Isaiah, comprising 66 chapters, is one of the most profound theological and literally expressive works in the Bible. Generally divided by scholars into two major sections. First Isaiah, chapter 1 to 39, or Deuteronomy Isaiah, chapter 40 to 66. Other facts about Isaiah. Isaiah contains 5 main themes. 1. The glory, greatness of God. 2. The sin of all the people of the earth. 3. The judgment laid against them, Israel being scattered and reformed. 4. The first and second coming of Christ. 5. The great tribulations and the glorious millennium. The book of Isaiah spans the time of 4 kings rule over Israel: King Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah. Isaiah was the only one to predict the virgin birth of Christ, as well as his dual being both man and God. Let us all watch this short video about Isaiah's story.
During the time of the prophet Isaiah, the people of Israel, God's chosen people, were living in sin. They had forgotten all that God had done for them. They did not keep God's commandments, and instead prayed to false gods. God chose a messenger to go tell the people to stop sinning and turn back to God. He chose a man by the name of Isaiah to deliver this message. Isaiah loved God and was sad for the people of Israel. So God showed Isaiah a dream where God told him exactly what to say. In this dream, Isaiah saw God sitting on his exalted throne with angels all around him. In the dream, God spoke, and his voice was so loud it shook the building and filled it with smoke. Then an angel came to Isaiah and touched his lip with a glowing coal. This meant that Isaiah's sins were forgiven. Then, in the dream, God asked, "Whom shall I send? Who will go for me to tell the people of Israel my message?" "Here I am. Send me," Isaiah replied. "It is a difficult task," God responded. "The people won't listen, so I am going to punish them. But I am also going to give you a message of hope. I will not punish them forever." The next day, Isaiah began to tell the people what God said. Day in and day out, he told the people the sad news. "You have sinned. God will punish you. Stop sinning and obey God." But no, the people didn't return to God. Instead, they laughed and made fun of Isaiah. And then it all happened. Isaiah told the truth, and the people of Israel did not listen. God took his protection away from them, and the Babylonians conquered Israel. They carried away thousands of Israelites and made them into slaves. The Israelites were dragged away from their own country on ropes and chains. It was too late. God's punishment had started. The people were discouraged and depressed. But Isaiah did not forget that God also gave him a message of hope. This time, the people listened to Isaiah. "Hear the good news," he told them. "A king is coming, not a sinful one like you're used to. This king will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and of peace there will be no end, on the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time forth and forevermore." This was exactly what the people had longed for. Deliverance was coming. Someday, this king would break onto the scene and make everything right again. His name would be Jesus.